I think this red flag was quite a bit different than ones I had participated in the past. It's been a few years since I've been out here on the ground. The biggest difference is the red flag staff has really amped up the scenarios that we go out and fight against. We're turning our attention away from fights in places like Afghanistan towards looking at near-peer adversaries again. Well, when you start to look at near-peer adversaries, you're talking about adversaries that bring some really significant firepower to the fight. So these were much more amped up scenarios that our young pilots were able to train against, and overall great training. Well, we've been on the books to come to this red flag for a while as the core unit. Honestly, my expectation, I think if you had asked me 6 months ago, was that we probably wouldn't even be coming to red flag due to COVID. So the fact that we were able to get out here on the ground, safely execute an exercise over 3 weeks, and get some amazing training for some of our youngest aviators really blew my expectations away. The White Cell, the red flag staff did an outstanding job. The measures that are put in place that we were able to execute, that our aviators, our maintainers, everybody on the ground took seriously. At the end of the day, we were able to execute the fight. The one thing about being a stealth bomber and a strategic asset is that at times it can kind of feel like you're alone on an island, and especially the way the B-2 employs and only having one base to be stationed at. So the opportunity to bring an entire unit out here, we brought the entire 393rd Bomb Squadron and then augmented that with even some more people, gives us the opportunity to interact face-to-face with lots of different units.
Relationships win wars, period. The B-2 will never go to war alone. Never has, never will. So that's the beauty of coming out here and getting out of Whiteman, where we just will simulate a lot of other players with us in our local training, which is okay to get folks used to it. When you come out here to do it for real, it feels good. It feels right. The B-2 is not invisible. It's never to go all by itself, alone and unafraid. We're always have space, we always have cyber, we always have some kind of domain warfighter supporting us, no matter what we do.
From a readiness standpoint, I think that we are definitely ready to go and fight tonight. We have that mentality all the time. But to really execute a fight against a near-peer adversary, you've got to be able to leverage relationships with people. And red flag is where you start to build those relationships at a young age with our lieutenants and our young captains so that they have somebody to pick up the phone and call when it's time to plan a big mission. I think Whiteman did very well in this exercise. It's always rough when you haven't been in a major exercise like this on the ground for several years. The last time Whiteman came out here and actually put jets on the ramp was 2017. So after some initial hiccups and just getting things going again and getting familiar with the environment, I think the 393rd Bomb Squadron did a terrific job. We learned a lot of lessons, some of which we have learned before, which is a little bit about what red flag's about. We don't walk out the door with missions planned by the oldest and most experienced people in the squadron. We let our young folks plan them, and sometimes they go out and make mistakes that we've learned before. Obviously, we want to go out there and win every day, but the real training and the milestones that we get from an exercise like red flag is when we go out and we actually lose and we don't necessarily execute the plan perfectly. That's where we get back in the debrief and actually tear that mission apart, figure out what we could have done better, and in the process of that grow significantly in our ability to execute air power. We proved our tactics and proved that when the whole force comes together to fight, that we're ready to mix it up with about anybody. Well, I think it's important for global strike assets to be here on the ground. Like I kind of talked about earlier, with the B-2 in particular, with only one squadron and only one base, we're stretched and pulled in a lot of different directions, whether it's bomber task forces, our day-to-day training, both in the conventional and the nuclear mission. To be able to get here and dedicate 3 solid weeks in an exercise like red flag is invaluable to us. So this definitely is going to be the start of some really good relationships with our pilots and pilots in other units. And I would argue the crosstalk that happened in maintenance across the board is really good for our readiness at Whiteman Air Force Base. One thing I'd like to tell Nellis Air Force Base in the 57th Wing is just thank you. And what an amazing base this is. It's really awe-inspiring. I think the first time I visited Nellis Air Force Base would have been probably back in the late 90s. To see this base and what it's grown into, it is really a crown jewel of Air Combat Command. and they really rolled out the red carpet for us for this exercise. And once again, Red Flag showed what it's capable of being, and that's being the premier combat training exercise that the Air Force hosts.